We are back for another edition of the Awesemo MMA Strategy Show. Is here to get you ready for UFC Vegas number 48, which goes down on Saturday inside the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, headlined by a light heavyweight matchup between Johnny Walker and Jamal Hill. Also on this card, you got Daukaus against Pickett, a fight that came together last week. Of course, it's a fight card that has gone through multiple changes over the last week. Of course, card that was initially supposed to be headlined by RDA and Rafael Fiziev. That fight got moved to next month due to visa issues on the Fiziev side of the equation. Of course, yesterday we lost the main event for next week's card, as Alhassan was supposed to be taking on Beneil Dariush. Beneil Dariush got a nasty injury in training. Now Bobby Green steps up to take that fight against Islam Makhachev in a catchweight bout of 160 pounds. So much to discuss here. Of course, we're going to break this one down for you. Of course, we're sponsored by Prize Picks. Talk about Prize Picks later on in the show. Of course, as always, I am joined by the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr. Pete, we coming here following last week's UFC 271. You know, we got to give you your roses. You know, landing that Douglas Silva de Andrade. Look, wasn't looking very good in the first round. Was not looking very good at all in the first round. He suffers that cut, which I'm just like, oh, man, because I just had so much Andrade all over the place. But, hey, it's Texas. They let anything go. And but kudos to you in calling that one. Of course, last week you also hit on Jacob Malkoun, as we only had 3 fighters, 8,000 or less, that ended up getting a win last week. Jacob Malkoun going out there and scoring 129 DraftKings points, the second highest score of the slate last week, only behind Ronnie Lawrence, 131, which Ronnie Lawrence, you know what? I know there's some people on the Discord chat that may not be as big of fans of James Krause Gym as we are, but you just got to know what James Krause says to Motta Martinez. Hey, man, just go out there and throw. Just go out there and throw. And by God, he almost pulled off an insane come from behind victory.
Yes, sir. What's going on, everybody? It was a great week last week. You know, we hit on Andrade, and that's how MMA is, right? Like one round or one sequence in an MMA fight does not define, you know, the entire fight. Usually, that's why we always say the better fighter doesn't always win an MMA fight. Sometimes you get caught. Sometimes you get caught in submissions, or you get caught on the feet. And the more skilled guy doesn't necessarily always win. So trying to predict MMA is extremely difficult. But Andrade came through last week, and he has dynamite in those hands. And his Achilles heel has always been his wrestling. We also hit on Kyler Phillips' submission prop, which was pretty dope. That was awesome. Came through in the third round. All in all, just, you know, taking these great moments on cards like this and trying to keep the momentum going forward, and happy to see all the screenshots and people cashing and shouting us out and all that. But we got another, you know, excellent card ahead of us. Well, I shouldn't say excellent card, right? Like, you know, that's just me being the UFC fanboy, always just saying how much I enjoy fights. This is a pretty terrible card, but it's an excellent opportunity to take advantage of some lines and, you know, find some edges on this card. And I think that we can definitely locate them.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, in relation to something you said there, the more talented fighter may not always win. Right. Like, I look at the co-main event last week. I think we would all agree. I think Derek Lewis is the more talented fighter. I mean, look, Tyler Tuivasa took some incredible punches, but you know what, you land that one shot, the short elbow, man, night is over for you there. But hopefully we can land on some bigger ones. I know Casey O'Neill, if you took her last week, especially over in FanDuel in the MVP spot, she really cashed in well there. But of course, we're here to talk about this one. Main event is Johnny Walker taking on Jamal Hill. Johnny Walker, 7,200, 9,000 for Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill, 2.5 to 1 betting favorite in this one. I mean, when you think about Pete with the narrative of Johnny Walker over the past couple of years, it's been a guy in, I would use the word transition. And what I mean by that, this is a guy that has transferred from gym to gym, trained down Brazil, ends up going to TriStar. You know, now he's been training at SPG. I mean, look, if you're going up against Jamal Hill, he's not necessarily the fighter I would want to pick against Jamal Hill, because, I mean, look, if I'm looking to pick someone against Jamal Hill, it's someone who I believe will go the takedown route.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think this fight's extremely interesting, and Johnny Walker's previous performance against Thiago Santos was somewhat of a stinker. I don't think many people thought that was going to go the distance. I sure didn't. And I don't know, like all this jumping around from gym to gym can definitely hurt a fighter's career because there's no consistency. And it could be, a situation where they're not owning up to their own mistakes, or they're constantly pointing the finger or trying to just find the perfect recipe for success, which I understand. You got to train with the best guys. I just think SBG is just such a strange gym for a big guy. Like, I just feel like that is such a strange gym. Obviously you want to have like a good mentor there, which you do, but you also had one in Faraz Zahabi at TriStar. So it's just extremely interesting to me. As far as stylistically, I think that Johnny Walker makes a ton of mistakes, and his recklessness has been the result of a lot of his success. Like, he's caught people because he's extremely unorthodox. And when he's, it seems like he's starting to calm down a little bit. And now you're starting to see that his skills aren't like really up to par. It's his aggressiveness that led to a lot of his success. He definitely packs a punch. He definitely has a knockout chance in this fight, even though we haven't seen Jamal Hill really suffer that at all. But I'll tell you what, his chin is just a complete liability. And even if you go back and you look at the Ryan Spann fight, like, I was on Ryan Spann in that fight because I like the power that Spann possesses. I also like the takedown upside and the submission upside that Spann had. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to find the finish in that situation. Yeah, he knocked down Johnny Walker multiple times, and they didn't even really look like big shots. So I think a guy who can really just channel in some correct combinations, I think that, Jamal Hill is the guy that can do it. I know that I wasn't on Jamal Hill in a previous performance against Jim Crute, just because of the grappling upside of Jim Crute and how we saw Paul Craig capitalize on a situation like that. But in a stand-up affair, he has all the skills in the world, and I really don't trust Johnny Walker's chin at this point. But as far as like underdogs this week, Jason, I really think it's absolutely ugly. There aren't too many that I'm too fond of. We'll get to a guy that I'm going to plant my flag on, and it's going to be this week's Douglas Silva de Andrade, and hopes that he can really come through for us. But I'll have limited exposure to Johnny Walker. I really think Jamal Hill knocks him out.
Just looking at underdogs, that might be.
I bet you won't nail it. I bet you will not nail it. We'll see when we get there.
There's two names that jump out to me.
Okay.
One of them might be if you have Northeast biased. The other one, is a guy that's been around for a while. So we'll see whether I'm right or not on that one. The one thing also, I mean, you mentioned about the chin issues there with Johnny Walker. I mean, look, when he has got the wins, it's been quick. But if you look at his most recent fight, the 5-round decision loss to Thiago Santos, this is what also I think concerns you if you're looking to put Johnny Walker in your lineup. Only landed 44 strikes in a 25-minute fight. He did, 48 strikes he landed in that fight. He did stop a takedown in that one, but that lack of volume is very concerning. Even in a 25-minute fight, even at a 7,000 price tag. And to me, this main event is a lot kind of like last week. It's not a main event that I'm going to prioritize in my lineups. Obviously, I'm going to get to each of these fighters in multi-entry lineups, because I do try to get to pretty much everyone except the certain situations. But that to me is a little concerning when we talk about the lack of volume there. Of course, if you we appreciate everyone that's here on a Thursday afternoon, watch us live here on YouTube, or maybe if you're watching us after the fact, be sure to smash that thumbs up button. We always appreciate to see those likes. Also, you're not subscribed also right here on YouTube, do that as well. Got a ton of great shows for you each and every day. Of course, coming up after us will be the NHL strategy shows, guys, to get you ready for tonight's NHL slate. And of course, today's free premium data and tools over at Awesemo.com. If you're not an Awesemo Plus member, our NBA ownership projections and NHL player projections. Also, be sure to take advantage of the podcast giveaway we got going on right now. Head over to that Awesemo MMA. Well, because, I'm just going to be a little biased here. Head to that Awesemo MMA podcast channel. Hit that 5-star review. Leave your Twitter handle and also or Awesemo username, and you'll be registered into winning a free month of Also Plus Platinum. So be sure to check out that. I always do love those 5-star rating and reviews. Let's move over to the co-main event as a matchup that just came together over the last week or so. Kyle Daukaus taking on Jamie Pickett. Kyle Daukaus nearing a 3-1 betting favorite in this one against Jamie Pickett. Jamie Pickett is one of those guys I feel like I can never peg this guy right in a fight. I feel like I'm always basically going against him more than anything else. Kyle Daukaus 8,800 on DraftKings, 7,400 for Jamie Pickett. Of course, as we do this show, pricing on FanDuel has not come out yet, yet, so we'll see where the pricing ends up there yet. But I'll tell you kind of a hint on the prize picks. I am looking at that takedown prop of Kyle Daukaus.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I love Kyle Daukaus, and I actually like Kyle Daukaus more than Chris as far as upside, just because I think like, yeah, he's not a knockout guy, but I think he's the more skilled brother. I think that he really relies on his grappling a lot more than his brother, obviously. I think that he's a long, massive guy for the division, big southpaw. And, he can switch things up, which I think is, always going to work to his advantage, especially in a situation here against Jamie Pickett, who, yeah, admittedly, I'm not high on. He came through in his last fight. That's fine. He's not beating Kyle Daukaus. I'm pretty confident that he's not beating Kyle Daukaus. I like Daukaus here with the takedown upside and even the submission upside. I know that Jamie Pickett has improved, and Jamie Pickett's no slouch. I wouldn't label him a slouch on the mat. I just think that Kyle Daukaus is just going to be a step ahead, and his positional awareness is incredible. His boxing combinations, it forces a lot of people to clinch with him, and just his big body frame really works to his advantage. And he takes the back pretty well against a lot of people. So I can definitely see a fight where Kyle Daukaus has high control time, solid takedowns, maybe limited significant strikes, which is kind of like the one knock against him in fights. Like, he doesn't really go towards vicious ground and pound. That was difficult to say. And I think that Kyle Daukaus can work towards a finish here at 8,800. I think that he's going to be a solid piece for a lot of my lineups. And I'm pretty confident he gets the win here.
By the way, did you see the fighter who proclaimed to have the best ground and pound in the UFC?
Was that Connor? I was kind of scrolling past something yesterday. I didn't read the post. I have to go back and read it.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, Connor.
Yeah,
he knows how to keep himself in the news. Just saying.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think, like, as far as like props, I think Kyle Daukaus via submission, I think it sits at like plus 250. And we have seen Jamie Pickett get submitted by Charles Byrd. And just, even throughout his amateur career, like, I think it's a situation where Kyle Daukaus can capitalize, but inside the distance is a little sneaky one as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things when you look at the stats of Jamie Pickett, as you look at his fights in the Contender Series and his fights in the UFC, the one fight that does stick out to you is the matchup on Contender Series against Punahele Soriano, which, I mean, look, we don't look at Punahele Soriano as someone who's a takedown artist by any stretch. Yeah. He's a guy that you think of what he can do on the feet with his kickboxing. He got 3 takedowns in that fight. So I think that, we'll talk about that number on Prize Picks here in a little bit, but it's 2 takedowns for Kyle Daukaus. I think if you believe that if Jamie Pickett can survive, more than a round and a half, I mean, I don't know how you don't take the over on that one. I have no idea how you don't.
That's a situation where today I would target that line, because I can see that approaching 3.5 come Saturday.
Yeah, and I always say over at Prize Picks, when you see those lines early in the week, and by the way, one of the things I will be looking, I haven't seen props over there at Prize Picks yet. We've got a Bellator card on Saturday too, and especially on the prelims, I target those props on the prelims because I understand what the prelims are.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's definitely favored towards the favorites, and some mismatches throughout.
Are you saying there might be a local favorite returning to Bellator that you might want to target on your gambling side of the equation? Is that what you're saying? Yeah,
he might have dabbled within my gym a couple times throughout this training camp, and he's actually looking really good. Shout out to Brendan Ward. I hope that, he comes back in spectacular fashion. He's been working with some of my guys, and he's going to be a piece within our team as well going forward.
Yeah, of course, that's one of the things we'll talk about Prize Picks here later on in the show. Let's move on to the next matchup. We got a heavyweight matchup. A local Northeast fighter there from Pizza Range is Parker Porter. He's a minus 265 betting favorite. He is taking on Alan Baudot, who is plus 215, 8,900 for Parker Porter, 7,300 for Alan Baudot. Can you talk me off of just not making Parker Porter a staple in my lineups this week?
No, I can't. And the reason I can't is because Parker Porter has shown that he's game within the UFC, and he's fought some, I'd say, decently strong competition. Obviously debuting against Chris Daukaus, that did not go well. But look what Daukaus has done to basically the rest of the division outside of Derek Lewis. getting a win over Josh Parisian and following that up against Chase Sherman. Getting takedowns, high significant strike totals, landed 126 significant strikes, 2 takedowns against Parisian, 149 significant strikes against Sherman, 1 takedown against Sherman. I'm telling you what, man, I think Parker Porter probably finds his first finish within the UFC. And it's because Alain Baudot is not the most skilled fighter in the world, likes to strike, can definitely find himself a just 5% chance landing something unorthodox, being wild. It's heavyweight MMA, and his unorthodox techniques can definitely lead to a knockout that shouldn't happen. But more often than not, Parker Porter is going to land strikes at will, good leg kicks. He's pretty strong for the division as well. So he can mix in takedowns, and he's got underrated grappling. So I think that he can get this done whichever way he chooses. Inside the distance is something that I think is extremely sneaky. A guy looking to get his first career UFC finish. I mean, within a division like that, now you're talking about a 3-fight win streak. He can start getting matched up with some other, decent heavyweights going forward. Like, I don't think Parker Porter's bad at all. If you look at his record, he's lost to John Jones, knockout loss to Josh Diekman, fought Gabriel Gonzaga, was submitted. Like, I mean, through the regional scene, I've known Parker Porter for a while, like in New England. Like, he's just very stable and steady and has good cardio for the division as well. So I think that this is like a absolute smash spot. But like we always say, the better fighter doesn't always win, and something stupid could happen. So I'm not going to be playing Alain Baudot, but if you want to just kind of play him because it's heavyweight MMA, anything could happen. But I fully expect Parker Porter to get a finish.
You mentioned about Parker Porter seeking his first UFC win via stoppage. You look at his 2 UFC wins, both decision wins. He has scored 100 points in both of those matchups. And in the Parisian fight, scoring 106, where he had 126 significant strikes, 2 takedowns, over 4 minutes of control time, and a total of 164 strikes landed. In that Chase Sherman fight, 100 points, where he had 149 significant strikes, a takedown, 2 minutes of control time, and 159 strikes. So it just kind of shows that even in a decision and at that price point, he's still a guy that you can look at as a triple-digit score, and he's just somebody that, to me, is going to be a staple. I will probably be over the field in terms of the rest of the field here, but there's not a ton of fighters I look at this week that I would say I have as much confidence like I do in Parker Porter, and a lot of it to me is about the opponent that he is facing. Of course, this is the Awesemo MMA Strategy Show. Do want to let you know about a promo we got going on right now for Awesemo Plus NASCAR coverage. Of course, the Daytona 500 is on Sunday. Myself and Chris will be here on Sunday to get you ready for NASCAR Live Before Lock. You got to take advantage of the promo we got going on right now, where you can get a season-long Awesemo Plus NASCAR pass for less than $2 per race this season. That's $70 for a full year of Awesemo Plus NASCAR covers. Gives you access to driver projections, ownership projections, top driver tools to give you the edge you need in NASCAR DFS. Be sure to use a promo code Green Flag at checkout. This offer is valid through Sunday. So they got the millionaire contest over there all over on DraftKings. So myself and Chris will be here on Sunday, I believe at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time, maybe 2 p.m. Eastern time. I just know Sunday afternoon I will be live here on Awesemo with Chris, breaking down NASCAR Daytona 500, the kickoff to the official start of the NASCAR season. Of course, you had that race there at the LA Coliseum there a couple of weeks ago. Let's move on to the next matchup. And let me just ask you mentioned about there's an underdog that you're going to be on. I said I got 1 or 2 guys. Is one of them Jim Miller?
So Jim Miller's not the guy I'm planting my flag on. Okay. But what I will say is I think that these odds should be more towards a pick 'em. So there is value on Jim Miller. I will be including Jim Miller in like my long shot pool, but let's be real. He's getting old for the division. He doesn't really have the best cardio for the division. I think that there's tremendous takedown upside in this matchup against Nicholas Motta, who hasn't really showed the best wrestling defense and submission defense throughout his entire career. And, he has been finished as well. And we do have Jim Miller coming off a nice finish, but more often than not, you have Nicholas Motta being brought into Rafael dos Anjos' camp. to emulate the game of Rafael Fiziev. And what Rafael dos Anjos can bring to the table is a better version of Jim Miller. So I think that Nicholas Motta is definitely getting strong looks in camp. I don't know how that's going to translate into the cage, into the octagon, because training is training, but you are fighting a guy with, the most UFC fights or something like that. And, Jim Miller's experience, he even talked about it in an interview. He said, he's had 2 camps for Nicholas Motta already. And in the first one, they worked on a ton of things. So now they really went back to the well. And I would imagine it's a lot of grappling, staying on the outside and banging with a guy who possesses some really dynamite in his hands. And Nicholas Motta is not, a recipe for success. Now, Miller's been pretty tough to put away if you go throughout his entire career. I'm going to have Miller in plenty of lineups because underdogs are ugly this week, but I'm going to still lean towards Nicholas Motta just because of the youth and being brought in for Rafael dos Anjos' camp. I think that can only help him in a fight like this. But round 1 submission prop, round 1 grappling upside of Jim Miller, it's there, man. He can land takedowns. It's just, can his cardio, can he sustain a pace throughout 15 minutes if this gets stretched out? I'm pretty confident he's going to win round 1. It's just outside of that, how does the rest of the fight go?
Yeah, I mean, I think for Motta, it's about, can he keep this fight on the feet? And by the way, that Miller via submission prop plus 350, of course, based on what sports book you're at there, maybe get a little bit different line on that one, but looks anywhere from 300 to plus 350 is what you got there. Jim Miller, 39th UFC fight. Pete, when you had made your MMA professional debut, Jim Miller had already had 12 fights in the UFC.
Damn. Yeah, man, he's a legend. Like when a company sticks with a guy and he's been around forever and he's fought the title contenders, the young upcoming guys, and he's had, consistent and inconsistent success throughout the UFC, like patches. Obviously, he was a lot better in his younger days, but all in all, he's a tough out and he's a tough fighter to go up against, especially in your UFC debut. Man, Jim Miller, absolute stud. I would love nothing more than for him to pull off the victory here. And at his price point, with the tremendous takedown upside, I think that, he needs to be included in some of your lineups, especially your long shot pool, if you're using the Fantasy Cruncher tool over on Awesemo.com.
I mean, it's one of those things, I think, in terms of GPPs and looking at that, the under 8,000 fighters, right? Jim Miller's got to be one of those guys you're looking at, because if Jim Miller goes out there and gets the win, you're expecting that it's going to be, I don't expect it to be a 3-round decision. I expect it to be a stoppage. And I think if Jim Miller wins, it's a high probability that he is going to be optimal. But I mean, look, the other part of this is Jim Miller's a name. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to recognize that name. That's where you really got to look at the ownership projection of where he may be. And looking at right now, it's a good leverage spot.
Yeah, I think I'd rank him probably my 3rd favorite underdog on the slate.
Next up, we got a matchup. As when I initially looked at this fight card, it was the one matchup that stuck out to me above all the other matchups, and that is Joaquin Buckley and Abdulaziz Alhassan. Alhassan 7,900, Buckley 8,300. Of course, we've talked about since Buckley's come over to UFC. This is a completely different fighter than the guy that we saw in Bellator and on the regional scene. Just a completely different fighter. The one thing that did stick out to me, I saw it about two and a half weeks ago, the fact that he was in the room there at Extreme Couture. Eric Nixick had posted a picture of all these middleweight fighters, and he was in this picture. And obviously I think that when you talk about the proper game plan for him here would be obviously to try to utilize that wrestling, get this fight to the ground, not to have a stand and bang type fight with Alhassan, which for your Alhassan, that's what he wants to do here. Alhassan does not want to get into a wrestling grappling type fight.
No, absolutely not. And I view this matchup as an extremely volatile fight, just because the loser in this situation could have single digit scores. I think that either one of these guys can get knocked out. And obviously we've really only seen Alhassan get destroyed once, and it came against Chaos Williams. Outside of that, he's been outworked in a lot of his other losses. And, being outworked is a cardio thing, and not having the ability to keep up a pace and defend takedowns has been his Achilles heel throughout his career. And you even saw it against Munir Lazzez, Definitely saw it against Jacob Malkoun. Even if you go back and you look at his fight against Omari Akhmedov, you know, that's what lost him that fight as well, is getting taken down when things are going well for you. It kind of kills your momentum in a fight and makes the round seem a lot closer in the judge's eyes. Now, I don't really know if I can label Joaquin Buckley as a guy that I trust, just because he's been knocked out multiple times now. And, you know, when you get knocked out against a guy in Dikiriko, who isn't a prolific knockout artist, yes, it was a perfect shot. It landed. But he was on wobbly legs a lot in that Antonio Arroyo fight as well. And I didn't see like an ever improved, you know, defensive strategy out of him. Like, he didn't get knocked out, but I'm telling you, he was wobbled multiple times. He got clipped with some knees. He got clipped with a head kick again, where his striking defense just was not corrected. And that's how he lost to Dikiriko, is from a head kick. And what do you have? You have Alhassan coming off a head kick KO. So you try doing MMA math for this fight, it just doesn't make any sense. But I have to tell you that Alhassan's probably my second favorite underdog on the slate. I like him here at 7,900. I think that he hits really hard. I am worried about him getting taken down and ragdolled throughout. That's why I'm not planting my flag on Alhassan either. But I am going to lean in his direction, just because I think a camp change to elevation makes some sense for him. Some stronger wrestlers there, and also to really help him with his cardio. That's something where, you know, even in fights like against Munir Lazez, he was still live in the second and third round when he was absolutely exhausted, nearly knocked out Munir Lazez. And I think if he could just, you know, have better coaching staff around him, which I think he does, he could definitely pull this out and knock out Joaquin Buckley. So I'm going to lean towards Alhassan, but again, not a confident play. You're probably going to need one of these guys in the optimal lineup.
You know, the concern I do have is if this thing does go 15 minutes and it's an Alhassan win, I just don't think he's optimal at that price tag.
Yep.
You know, he's going to need a stoppage victory, and probably, I mean, if it's a decision win, he's got to have a lot of volume, probably needs some knockdowns. You know, he's going to have to defend takedowns. Something to note, Joaquin Buckley in the past has trained with Chaos Williams. Of course, Chaos Williams did get a knockout win against Alhassan in 30 seconds. So how much can, you know, but I'm sure there's probably been some conversation there, but I would imagine that Extreme Couture coaching staff has probably been drilling into Buckley of, hey man, the best path to victory here is to test that, the ability to take the fight to the ground. So, you know, look, if you tell me one of these guys is optimal, I think it's more likely it's Buckley because of the takedowns.
It's just a matter of if he does it or not, right?
Yeah,
like on the regional scene and in Bellator, that's what he did. And then he came to the UFC and he wanted to make a name and, you know, debuted against Kevin Holland, and the rest has been history, and just going out there in aggressive, you know, fashion. And it's an IQ thing as well. Like, yeah, you want to get bonuses, but there's also, you got to like solidify your spot on the roster too.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of those things for him at this point is he understands that he has got to go out there and he has got to get a victory here in this one. But look, I think that you look at the price point, it has a fight that has the potential to be a very fun fight to watch. We'll see how it does play out. Next up, we got a matchup that another fight change that we've seen over the last week or so, where Jonathan Pearce supposed to take on Austin Lingo. He now takes on Christian Rodriguez, 6,900 for Rodriguez, 9,300 for JSP. And I mean, look, you have an undefeated fighter in Christian Rodriguez, but man, when you look at his last fight back just a month ago, it's always a warning of, you took on a guy who was 19-36 in his career.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of like a lot of regional building is you'll see soft records going up against guys who are trying to climb the ladder, which is, you know, it's a give and take where, you know, they get nice victories, but have they really been tested? And I think a guy in Jonathan Pearce is going to really, really test Rodriguez here, just because Pearce comes from a very, very strong gym, and he might have some of the best cardio I've seen to withstand a good pace. Tons of takedowns, tons of aggressiveness. He'll look for submissions. He'll look for ground and pound. You know, outside of that Joe Lozon fight, he has looked amazing. And I think that he's really like hitting his stride. He's got a phenomenal camp that he's been with for a solid amount of time. I think at 9,300, the price tag is absolutely justified. I like him here a lot. I love the upside. I think that Christian Rodriguez has plenty of skill, but primarily like in the striking department. And I don't think that Pearce is going to just allow this fight to play out on the feet. Pearce is going to mix in takedowns and try to ragdoll his opponents. He's done it to some solid competition against Kai Kamaka and Omar Morales, which, you know, Omar Morales comes from a strong camp in Sanford MMA that they wrestle all the time. And Jonathan Pearce made it look like he didn't know how to wrestle, 6 takedowns in that fight. So I think JSP gets it done here. And I think that he has tremendous upside for the card. Other people can take shots on Rodriguez. It's not going to be me this week. I think that there's better matchups going forward. 6,900. Yeah, he's cheap, but I think Pearce is the rightful favorite.
No, I'm with you on that one. Of course, we are sponsored by Prize Picks. Of course, you got to check out those props they have over there. I'm waiting for those Bellator props to get put up there because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be, especially any props that are on the prelim props. You gotta take advantage over there. Of course, get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up, deposit, and play over at Prize Picks. You'll receive an email within 24 to 40 hours to redeem your free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Of course, use that promo code Awesemo for an instant first match deposit of up to $100. We talked about the takedown props over there. Daukaus 2, to me, that's an over one. The other one on the takedowns, Pete, that I do like is Parker Porter. He's at 1. I like the over in that one as well.
I would agree with you. Baudot is so bad. It might only take 1 takedown, but we'll see. I mean, I wish it was like 0.5 because then it's an easy smash.
Yeah. And the fight time, I would say there was 2 that stuck out to me, and they're both over placed for me as well. Over Jamal Hill 8.5. I think this fight's going to go a little longer. I'm concerned that we might see a little bit of a staring contest between these 2 guys for a while. And the other one that I would tell you, Buckley 7.5. I like the over that one as well.
I'm with you on the first one, just because I think that Jamal Hill, he's going to be aggressive, but they're both going to pick their shots. And if we've seen anything from Johnny Walker, it's that he's trying to be a little bit more measured and patient, which I think can definitely hurt his career going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I would tell you this. Yeah, there's certain weeks I would tell you that there are certain props on Thursday that really jump my Prize Picks. There wasn't a ton that jumped out to me right now, but the takedowns on Porter and Daukaus were the 2 that really stuck out to me in terms of that. But as I said, when they do put some Bellator props up there, pay attention. Pay attention because there's the Bellator Force prelims. We know how they go.
Mm-hmm. One-way traffic a lot of times.
I'm just saying a general rule of thumb. If you see some Bellator fight time props over there, over at Prize Picks, as prelim fighters, just hit the under.
Don't even
think about it.
Blindly hit the under. Yeah.
Blindly hit that. And by the way, just to note, if they do have a fight time prop up on the Bellator main event on Saturday, Bellator main events, all Bellator main events in 2022 are 5-round fights, no matter it's a non-title or title matchup. So something to pay attention to if you're thinking about there over at Bellator, especially maybe you start seeing some over 3.5 props. You're gonna go, what? Yeah, that is a 5-round non-title matchup between Neiman Gracie and Logan Storley, which
I'll be there.
Probably ends up being on the feet because I don't think he, first off, you don't want to go to the ground with Neiman Gracie, and Logan Storley, that's what he does the best. So that's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'll be there. Obviously, I got to coach my guy in a grappling match, and then I'm shooting right over to Bellator and showing my support for the guys. So can't wait. Going to be a good card. And then, it's going to be a busy Saturday. We'll do the show what time? And then I got a jet right out.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock now. I got a jet.
Yeah, I was contemplating coming up there for that fight, but those fights on Sunday were ridiculous. They were ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Priced.
I'm sure.
I think it was like $500 on.
Yeah, it ain't worth it, buddy. Just stay home.
No, this is not the on paper, not the sexiest of fight cards this weekend. Let's just say that.
No, definitely not.
Now let's move on to the next matchup, as we've got a matchup that came together. I'll give you a little story. So last Thursday, I was scheduled to talk to Mario Bautista right after this show. literally right after the show was over. And about an hour before, they're like, hey, we need to cancel the Mario interview. His opponent just pulled out, and he is now taking on Jay Perrin. The CES bantamweight champion was scheduled to defend his title next month. Jay steps in. So is Jay Perrin the guy you're planting your flag in?
No, I'm not planting my flag on Jay Perrin just because it's a UFC debut, and it's extremely inconsistent how people are going to deliver on their debuts. But I will say that he's probably my fourth favorite underdog on the slate, and the reason is he's got the unknown factor about him. He's probably going to come in with next to no ownership, which I'll probably double just because there is upside, and the reason there's upside is because he made the move to Syndicate MMA. Outside of being a long stable of Sid Yatong, Boston, which is a strong camp here in New England, and at Syndicate MMA, he's had a lot of strong training partners come through. Merab Dvalishvili, Aljamain Sterling, like a lot of guys just come with good bodies and also good, stable training partners that are there all the time. That I'm sure I can go on and on who's there. But the one thing that's a little interesting in this matchup, in every matchup for Jay Perrin, is a lot of people think that he just likes to strike. And if you watch him fight, he strikes well. He has good hands. His striking defense, he's kind of like there to be hit, which you don't love to see. But he's relatively battle tested on the regional scene, but he really, really pushes the pace and presses his opponents against the cage. And he goes the grappling and takedown route a lot more than people expect. And we have seen Mario Bautista get taken down at times. And, I think that there is upside in Bautista's aggressiveness coming from a strong camp and, the MMA lab. But in the Jin Soo Son fight, you did see he gets taken down. And I feel like if Miles Johns incorporated takedowns, that fight would have gone completely different. So Jay Perrin could be a sneaky takedown guy on the card, which will probably have next to no ownership. And I'm okay with getting to a little bit of him. 7,000 flat, 9,200 for Bautista. The division where finishes are somewhat hard to come by. Perrin's submission defense hasn't been the best throughout his career, but it's something that he has improved on, and he can scramble pretty well. So outside of takedown upside, I still think that Bautista gets this done, probably via decision. But, like I said, Perrin's a guy that I'll pay attention to the ownership and get a little bit above just because of the possibility of takedowns.
So if anyone wants to check out the interview that I did with Jay, I did an interview I would say probably about a month ago at this point, but the first part of the interview is about his decision a year ago to leave the Northeast and head out to Vegas and Syndicate. And basically just to kind of, sum it up, basically was saying, I need to get around more bodies. I need to get around more high-level UFC type fighters. That was his whole reason. And he's talked about, he goes, look, I've grown a ton. I do think that if Jay is going to win on Saturday, it is because he's able to take the fight to the ground. I think if you tell me this fight plays out on the feet, I do like Mario Bautista in this spot. It's a high price tag to pay for Mario Bautista. I just don't know in a 15-minute decision, if he doesn't have knockdowns, whether he can pay off that 9,200 price tag. But I don't get by getting to Jay Perrin in this spot. But he's a guy that if you watch any interviews with him, confidence is not an issue.
Yeah.
Not an issue at all.
That's a word for it. Yeah.
Well, you got to use another word that starts with C? Is that what you're going to say?
Nah, I mean, some guys are just, a little overconfident, but it's good. You got to believe in yourself, and he's definitely skilled. And I think that the longer this fight goes, Perrin might be able to sneak in some takedowns, but Bautista is probably going to be a little bit more calculated just because he has been knocked out in his previous fight against Trevin Jones, which that lead uppercut kind of came from nowhere. Perrin is a good striker, but doesn't necessarily pack a significant punch. It would be more of a grinding type of win for Perrin. So I think I wouldn't say like fade Bautista at any point because he has been UFC tested. It's just he might not necessarily score the best in comparison to somebody like a Jonathan Pearce at 9,300.
Next up, we got a match between David Onama and Gabriel Benitez. 8,400 for David Onama, 7,800 for Gabriel Benitez. Oh man, I'm seeing Pete's reaction over here. Is Benitez the guy you're playing your flag on? Oh no,
no. I'm just playing with you, bro. I'm just playing with you.
I'm telling you what. I thought I was thinking Jim Miller. I was thinking Jay Perrin. I got two other guesses. I'm kind of looking down the card, going, "Where's Pete going here with this planting the flag?" And I'm like, "There's one of two. There's one of two."
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, you could say one or two because we got what we just did 8 fights, Jason. So there's only 3.
Well,
fights
I'm just
left.
saying there's 4 fights after this. So you say you're not playing your flag on Benitez. I don't think you're going on the female fights.
No,
I think I'm thinking you're going the first fight of the night. That's just my guess, but we'll see. We'll see. But what's your thoughts here on Benitez and the underdog role?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, whenever you see Benitez as an underdog, guy who's been in the UFC for quite some time, talented striker, really hard kicker, good Muay Thai, some sneaky submission upside as well, and just being UFC tested, it's a guy where it's like, okay, maybe I can get behind him. But when I saw he was fighting David Onama, I was absolutely impressed again, with David Onama's debut against Mason Jones. And Mason Jones is a guy I think that you and I are both pretty high on. And I think the entire MMA community is like, and David Onama steps up on short notice in a weight class higher and performs admirably, like lands 90 significant strikes, like pushing the pace against Mason Jones. And I'm like, dude, this kid is legit. And then I start to really dive into his record and from amateur career to professional career. James Krause has a guy here, man. He really does. James Krause definitely has a talented guy here. And I think that David Onama at 8,400 is an absolute bargain for Benitez, who has been extremely inconsistent in his past 4. Knockout loss to Sadiq Youssef, decision loss to Morales, got a nice knockout against Justin James, and then most recently losing in knockout fashion against Billy Quarantillo. I'm telling you, man, I really like David Onama, but Mowgli Gabriel Benitez has proven a lot of people wrong. But throughout his career, 22 amazing wins, 10 defeats. Hasn't looked the best of late. And I'll tell you what, David Onama looks like a hot prospect within the sport. So David Onama might be a stance where maybe the field is just showing a little bit too much respect for Benitez. I really like Onama in the fight. And I think that he has sneaky upside to get multiple finishes, whether it's submissions, TKO, even takedown upside. Like if he wants to, I don't think he's going to go that route, but I just think that he's skilled in all departments.
One thing I'll note about David Onama, he's been with James Krause since day one. So this is one of these guys that has been a part of Glory, and the development of him has been through that gym the entire time there. So I know there's some people that maybe aren't as high on Glory and MMA Fitness as we are. By the way, a little note on that. Grant Dawson left Glory last week. He is now down at American Top Team. Him and his fiance Elle Wagman both finished up last week and got in the car. They're now living in Coconut Creek.
Weird, man. Weird. I thought Grant Dawson was like Krause's guy, man. And
he was like an assistant coach there. I mean, that's one of those things of, that can work one of two ways. I mean, Pete, we've both had conversation with fighters who have gone to big gyms, and I think that their expectations and what reality ended up being is that if you're not certain people, you may not always get that one-on-one attention that you may get at a smaller gym.
Yeah, but so I consider Glory as like becoming a super gym, and like you're having like some of the highest caliber fighters wanting to go to Glory because you see what James Krause is doing. Like, yeah, American Top Team has a tremendous amount of bodies. They also have a facility the size of Walmart. So like, like you're going to get so many looks, but also with all those looks, you're probably not going to get undivided attention. Whereas like Glory MMA, when you're stable there, Krause, you're his guy. I don't know. We don't know the ins and outs. Maybe it's like a move. They just want to live in Florida. Maybe there's gym drama that we probably don't know, which is probably what I would suggest. But all in all, good luck to Grant Dawson. I think it's a bad move for his career, though.
Yeah, I remember the old American Top Team gym was a massive gym. Then they moved in this 40,000 square foot building. It's even more massive. Yeah. They got dorms there for the fighters. Yeah,
it's out of control.
It's crazy. Move on. Next up, we got a female matchup. Jessica Rose Clark taking on Stephanie Egger. 8,600 for Jessica Rose Clark. 7,600 for Stephanie Egger. Looking at the teletape of this one, the one thing that does stick out is Jessica Rose Clark does have a 4-inch reach disadvantage in this one.
I wanted to do it. I wanted to pull the trigger on Stephanie Egger, and I just ultimately can't. I think that, she looked good in her previous bout against Shayna Young. We call that one. I like Stephanie Anheliger in that matchup. She's a judoka, so she has good sneaky throws, improving jiu-jitsu. I think that, her way of winning fights is getting takedowns, incorporating a little ground and pound, and then capitalizing on when her opponents, make a mistake on the mat. And that the box score really, it was a weird stoppage, right? Like she hit Young with an elbow. She covered up a little bit, obviously, because elbows do not feel the best, and didn't respond the way that the ref really wanted. And I thought it was somewhat of an early stoppage, if I'm being honest. So that 104 box score, I don't know if that's like, fair to really put that for that performance. I feel like in a normal situation against a dog of a fighter in Jessica Rose Clark, I don't see her having tremendous upside. If she does squeak out a win, it could be a decision, because Jessica Rose Clark likes to initiate takedowns, despite being probably the better striker in most fights. She closes the distance and likes to put her opponents on the back. We saw that fight against Jocelyn Edwards where, there's moments where, it looks like Jessica Rose Clark is on her way to losing fights and making it a lot more difficult than it needs to be. That's why I was trying to really talk myself into Stephanie Yeager. And then I went back and I watched that Tracy Cortez fight, and I'm like, yeah, man, I think that Jessica Rose Clark can implement a similar game plan. Bouncing from CSA to Team Alpha Male, tons of good fighters there that can definitely, push her in all, areas of a fight, get her ready. I think that Jessica Rose Clark, outside of just having just a conditioning collapse, should win this fight. Stephanie Yeager, sneaky jiu-jitsu and judo, and a lot of judo, judokas have sneaky armbar. So maybe armbar from guard, something that it needs to be considered here. But I'll tell you what, despite all the stuff that I wanted to pull the trigger on Stephanie Yeager, I'm going to go with Jessica Rose Clark to get a victory here and just kind of avoid danger and, pick up another victory.
Yeah, I want to say that Jessica also spent some time at AKA at one point.
Really? Oh, she did. You're not AKA, but she worked with Daniel Cormier's wrestling team.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So I remember him mentioning that on the broadcast, and I was like, oh, okay, interesting. And I think that having good offensive takedowns is great and can definitely help her here. And she needs to have good hips in a situation like this where her opponent, Stephanie Yeager, is going to be looking to toss her.
Yeah. Just kind of looking at her Instagram, she's had some posts, her Team Alpha Male CSA. But yeah, I remember that was a while ago that she had done some work in it. And I know there's been a fair amount of people that have gone to Dan Cormier's gym because really they know you go to Cormier's gym, you're gonna be able to work on that wrestling in that gym. Yeah, what they do over there. Of course, earlier show, of course, Pete said, love seeing those winning screenshots. And we want to see you get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame. Of course, all you gotta be doing is rocking that Awesemo avatar on your DFS profile, finishing in the top 3 of a contest with over 5,000 contested. Tweet your wins to @Awesemo HOF. You win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Only one free month can be awarded to a user per calendar year. So kind of go through some of the most recent people. Timothy taking down first place in 2 different NBA contests, winning a $10,000 in one contest, winning $5,000 in another contest. Congratulations, Timothy, on that. Also in that same contest, Mikey coming in 3rd place, winning $2,500. Kudos to you for taking that one down. Also had another one there, 1st place over there on FanDuel. Congratulations to DFS New taking that one down, 2nd and 3rd there. Also Smoking Cutler taking down 1st place there in a NBA contest, winning $20,000. Also you had another 1st place contest there, $10,000 over the NBA side of the equation. Then our guy Emac talking about what he's been doing over there as well. By the way, I'll tell you, last week I found, I love playing these multiplier contests over on DraftKings. Yeah. I found a great contest if people want to get in it. $50 buy-in. Only 10 people are in it. Top 3 win $150.
Yeah, that's a solid one, man. And I feel like it's not too sharp or not sharp enough.
Yeah, especially the fact of my cash lineup that ended up having 2 losers in it still came in the top 3.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Nice find,
I sent a screenshot of Pete, and Pete's like, "Oh man, I need to get all these contests."
Absolutely.
Yeah, you gotta find those contests. I will say this: I do think that this week's DFS, I think it's going to be more of the sharp players
Yeah,
who understand MMA. Unlike say last week, where you just get a lot of people who are playing various, maybe they're sitting there saying, "Hey, we want to build our cash roll for the Super Bowl, whatnot." But this week, I think is going to be is one of those tougher weeks. But yeah, you got to. I love those multiplier contests. It's a great way to build your bankroll.
for sure, for sure. Definitely, contest selection can definitely help you and turn you into a profitable DFS player.
Next up, we got Chaz Scully taking on Mark Striegl. Striegl 7,500. Yeah, Skelly 7,500. Right, yeah, your eyes just got wide open, Mark Striegl. I don't know if you're trying to fade me again, because this was I thought it's the other male fight that you're looking at the underdog, but are we paying? Is the poll going in on this one?
Planting the flag, man. Mark Striegl, swear, I'm not even playing. Okay, and hear me out. Now, I definitely think that Chaz Skelly is extremely skilled. Comes from a good camp at Sanford MMA, good wrestling, pretty sneaky jiu-jitsu as well. Hasn't fought in quite some time. Hasn't fought since 2019 for no fault of his own. Like he's had a match and it was oddly canceled. Like I think as he was walking out, or if I remember correctly, I think it was against Jamal Emmers. But like in some of his bouts, he can get out scrambled and out muscled and out positioned, and inactivity kills a lot of careers. And I got to tell you that Mark Striegl is a guy that if you look at his box score, he scored 1 fantasy point against Nurmagomedov. So probably very, very low ownership going towards Mark Striegl, but he's a former Sambo champ. He has really good takedowns, really good submissions. Strength of schedule is probably not the same as Chaz Skelly, even though Chaz Skelly has fought a lot of guys who have been in and out of the promotion. Mark Striegl is going to be a guy that I think can pull off the victory here, can, get in top position, avoid some sticky situations of Chaz Skelly throwing up some submission attempts. I think there's takedown upside. I think that there's ground and pound upside. And I even think that there's possibility of submission upside. Striegl just is a different type of grappler. And at 18-3, you're doing something right. Like when you have 18 victories in the cage, like that's extremely difficult. I don't care if it's against soft, competition or softer competition in other countries. Mark Striegl is going to be a guy that I'm going to be over the field on this week, and he's my underdog of the week to come through and pull off the victory. He's been working a lot with the MMA lab this camp, and he looks like he is in phenomenal shape. I've heard great things about Striegl. I've heard great things from training partners. He's going to pull off the victory here for us at 7,500. At least I'm hoping so. I could be wrong because initially I'm a big Chaz Skelly guy. Takedown, submissions, that's the type of guy I like to target. But I'm telling you, I think Striegl is going to be the guy to really just completely throw the slate on its head.
Of course, be sure to smash that like button if you like to hear what Pete is saying there. Of course, subscribe to also right here on YouTube. Got shows coming for you all day long. Of course, coming up after us, NHL Strader Show. We'll try to get through these next 2 fights because those guys, we start here at the top of the hour. We got Belbita and DePaulo, 8,200 for Belbita, 8,000 for Paulo. Pete, what you take?
Pretty easy. I like Belbita in this fight, 8,200. Last week we had Malkun at 8,000 came through for us. So that really helped out our roster construction. I was trying to think about how DePaula can do this. And the more I think about it and the more tape I watch, the more I like Belbita. I like Belbita's aggressiveness, her top control, if she gets top position, her ground and pound, and just her ferocity for the division. Yeah, she didn't have the most success, but, that fight against Hannah Goldie showed something that she's able to compete at a decently high level. So give me Diana Belbita with some sneaky upside for a finish at 8,200.
Yeah, especially when you look at that 6 strikes land per minute stat for her, definitely sticks out to you. Then the first fight of the matchup, Chad and Anheliger, 9,100, take on Jesse Strader, 7,100. Pete, which take?
I think that Strader's going to be a popular underdog this week, just because if you look at his highlight film, and some of his other fights, you notice that he has some power in his hands, and Anheliger definitely leaves a lot to be desired for a lot of his film. He can get submitted, he can get controlled. But I'm not really impressed with Strader outside of his hands, and he has great combinations. He digs to the body, comes upstairs. With fighters that target body shots, it definitely piques your interest because a lot of fighters aren't able to take body shots over and over and over. Strader's going to be a part of my long shot pool, but I just feel like Anheliger will have some of the answers. And I'm still like, it's tough to see that price range and just where the odds are for that fight, but I still favor Anheliger, and I think Strader will probably be everybody's go-to this week. They're darling. They're Andrade this week to hopefully pull off the upset, and I think some other underdogs could be lost in the shuffle.
We'll get the Sam super chat here in a moment. Straight up picks for this one, not DFS related. Main event. Give me Jamal Hill.
Jamal Hill.
Give me Daukaus over Pickett.
Daukaus.
Porter over Baudot.
Porter.
I'm gonna go Jim Miller in the upset.
Okay. I'm gonna go Jim. I'll go Nicholas Motta.
I will go Buckley over Alhassan.
I'll go Alhassan.
Give me JSP against Rodriguez.
JSP.
Bautista against Perrin.
But yeah, I'm going Bautista.
I'll go Bautista. I like David Onama against Benitez.
Onama.
I'll take Jesse Jess against Egger.
Same.
I'm gonna play my flag too with you. If you're that confident, I got to back my guy P. Let's go Striegl.
Yeah, I'll go Striegl.
I'll go Belbita.
Belbita.
And Anheliger. I will take in the opening fight of the night.
Anheliger as well.
Don't love that necessarily from a DFS perspective. Sam, appreciate you in the super chat. Let's try to rag these through pretty quick. His over number 8.5.
Less.
Yeah, I'm less on that one. Let's top 2 cash GPPs, underdogs. In terms of cash plays for me and GPP, Parker Porter is the one that sticks out to me as a top play for me.
Porter and Daukaus, I like them equally. I also really like Onama as well.
Yeah, underdogs. I think you look at Jim Miller, high upside if he does get the win there. I think a dart throw Jay Perrin if he does go to takedown route in that one, I think is someone else to look at in terms of their in terms of fading. I don't know if the Clark Egger fight will be a fight that I get too much of though.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, that's why I didn't really get to Egger so much, because the likelihood of her finishing Rose Clark is just very minimal. So I could see that fight just being like mediocre for DFS production.
Yeah, and mention about leverage plays. I mean, we'll see kind of how ownership goes, but I think that's where you got to look at leverage plays. I would say start looking at who are the 9,000 fighters that are just not getting the ownership. Yep. So maybe that could be a Mario Bautista, someone like that to potentially look at, who, if he can get a stoppage win, goes out there and becomes a optimal play. In terms of optimal plays for me, I think you got to look at the Parker Porter fight. Buckley Alhassan, I think, is probably more optimal, probably with an Alhassan first round victory. Buckley may have to get a lot of takedowns and a decision win to get out there. In terms of another one, and maybe a little bit on a radar, maybe Belbita at 8,200 is someone to pay attention to.
Yeah, the price is nice on Belbita. The price is nice on Onama as well. So all in all, exciting card, just because that there's an edge for this one and everyone going forward. We appreciate your support. Before you guys head out of here, if you can hit that like button, and we will hope for the best for weigh-ins. We don't lose any fights, and we will be back here on Saturday to break down some more fights for you and see if anything has changed.
And of course, thanks to our sponsor, Prize Picks. Coming up next is the NHL strategy shows. Guys, get you ready for tonight's NHL slate. So that's going to do it for the Also MMA strategy show. We will talk to you on Saturday for Live Before Lock. Have a good day, everybody.